This is the Epomaker TH96, and I think they went too damn far with the knob. Where are the rest of the keys? I reviewed a few Epomaker keyboards before, but they've been okay. They win in the price department, availability, and they have pretty interesting quirks and features. The Epomaker TH96 is a compact, full-size keyboard with modern features, so it keeps up, and it provides it at a surprisingly good price at $149 with switches and keycaps. So all in one, pre-built, it's one of those. That's honestly not bad at all. You got hot swap, you got Keycaps/VIA compatibility, you got gasket mount, you got mechanical and silicone and foam and Bluetooth and wireless. I would say a pretty good deal. I normally wouldn't look at these weird layouts, but I am honestly tired of my friends asking for a numpad. I know people are used to their full-size keyboards where you have your alphas, you have your arrows, your navigation, and then you have a numpad. Do people really need the numpad? I feel like people use it to type their passwords, and that's it. And on top of that, they are obsessed with knobs. So right here you got your knob. It just feels bad that gaming keyboards have volume rockers and knobs, and sometimes customs don't. Often customs don't. So you tell them, okay, this custom keyboard is going to cost more, and it doesn't even have a way to control volume unless you layer it or use your mouse. I have featured Asus, Equinix, and other pre-builts, and they typically use proprietary software, and that usually scares people away. Installing software, bloatware, slows down your computer and heats up your computer. It's just not great. And honestly, QMK was daunting as well, but VIA made it much easier. There's a visual interface, you can map your keys, and you can do macros very quickly. Back in my day, when I started with the KD67 Mark II, I honestly had to flash my own key maps. It took forever, it was complicated, I had to deal with drivers, and it didn't work on every single computer. So let's address the big ass knob in the room. Yes, the thing is huge. Obnoxiously so. So much that they designed the keyboard around the knob. It honestly feels more stable and reliable than the big knob in the custom world, which is the Mammoth 75. That thing was honestly pretty flimsy. Mostly due to the fact that it was magnetic, and I honestly don't know why they made it like that. This knob controls volume, you can press it to mute and unmute, and if you go into VIA, you can change it to scroll if you really wish. It feels pretty hefty, and I will put it ahead of the cheap knob that comes with the GMMK Pro. The thing that kind of blows my mind is what the knob took up. Not every numpad splits, but this one does. It has the plus key split into plus and minus, and really the only other key that you're missing at this point would be the backspace key. And because it's a compact, I guess you could use this backspace instead of the backspace that's dedicated to the numpad. So you're not technically losing anything, but you did lose numlock. So numlock is used so that your numpad can be navigation as well as arrows. I mean, there's arrows here, so I guess it's okay. And there's page up and page down up here, so maybe. There's a delete key here. It's just a lot of weirdness with the layout. But you do get the benefit of keeping a smaller footprint, especially if you're working from home and you don't have a huge desk. The aesthetic of the keyboard is unique. Like I said, it wraps around the knob, which is interesting. It has a little fillet and curve all the way around, so they're really leaning into the curvature aspect of it. You do have your right arrow blocker, and you have a blocker for the numpad, so things aren't too compressed in there. You still got some space. You do have your indicator LEDs here for caps lock, Bluetooth, and power. With the curve, you have your switcher to go from wired to Bluetooth, as well as your USB-C. So it's a right side USB. It's in a very odd spot, but yeah, pre-built. On the back, this is a prototype unit, so there's no branding here, but pretty sure disclaimer is going to be there about safety and all that. And you have a flip-off feet, which is not my favorite because it makes it feel cheaper, but it is a plastic keyboard. If you really need different angles, there you go. A little bit more customization there. There's rubber feet everywhere, so it won't slide around on the desk. The whole keyboard is plastic, so it's not great. But because of the silicone and the foam, it's pretty decently heavy due to the size. Will this match up with an aluminum keyboard with the weight? No. So keep that in mind for your $149 keyboard. So QMK and VIA compatibility is only on the wired version. So if you want to use the Bluetooth, you're gonna have to use proprietary software. I know it's grown worthy, but that's pretty typical for Bluetooth. This keyboard has 2.4 gigahertz wireless as well as Bluetooth 5.0, so it is the latest in bells and whistles. In terms of the gasket mount design, because of the silicone, it is pretty stiff. In terms of the sound, it definitely kind of mutes it. We have Epomaker switches here, some linears, and the sound is pretty smooth, but it does have a little bit of scratchiness if you listen. There's no spring ping, so definitely usable in the stock condition. But if you do want to, it is 5-pin hot swap with south-facing LEDs. That means you can use any switch as long as it's cherry style, 3-pin, 5-pin, whatever. South-facing LEDs means you can use your cherry profile keycaps. Honestly, with this, just use the switches it comes with. But if this ends up becoming your endgame or a keyboard layout that you love, you can keep growing with the keyboard, switching out the switches and changing the keycaps if you so wish. As custom keyboards get cheaper, so should the pre-builds. At $149 in stock any time of the week, this is a pretty decent deal. But you gotta compare it with what's available in customs. It's hard because in customs, typically you have a bare bones kit. So that means no switches, no stabilizers, no keycaps. Typically customs don't really have full size layouts like this 96%, unless they're the more cheaper options. Candy Keys has the stacked 1800 acrylic kit. So it's an acrylic keyboard, but it's a DIY kit. So you have your case, your plate, and your PCB, but you still gotta buy stabilizers, switches, keycaps. The stacked 1800 is $90. So switches probably like 30-40 bucks, keycaps about 30-40 bucks. That's probably going to put you above the cost of this keyboard, but it's a little bit more customizable. You also don't get a knob or anything, so if you really are locked into the knob, you're kind of stuck with very niche keyboards. And of course, if you can give up the numpad, you got your Monokey Standard, you got your Tiger 80 Lite, and you have plenty of keyboards coming out of the woodworks like the Zoom TKL, that's under $200. Still a DIY kit, so you still got to buy switches, keycaps, stabilizers, but it's going to be another tier up. So there's a market for everybody. For this board, it's kind of more like a gift for a family member or a friend, but it has a very specific look that I don't know if most people will love. For me personally, I don't really love how the design of the knob wraps around like this. And although it doesn't sound pingy or hollow, it's because it's a plastic keyboard filled with foam and silicone. It's really hard to mess that up. I've mentioned it before. Cheap aluminum keyboards sound cheap, but cheap plastic keyboards sound fine. I do like the fact that you don't have to mod it, but the stabilizers are a little ticky. Backspace and spacebar sound kind of gross, but the other keys sound fine. Alpha sound pretty solid, so it's viable, just not my favorite. But $149 in stock any day of the week with QMK and VIA is going to be better than trying to hunt down a QK series board or a Zoom 65 or Zoom TKL board, depending on the drops. I always get confused as to when things are going to drop, if they're coming back, or is it a one-time thing. Pre-builts still have a place in the market, it's just not going to be for me. I personally would rather push people toward a TKL rather than having a knob and a numpad and just this weird layout. Let me know what you think of the TH96 in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.